Are you looking to get out of the big city and move into the country? Well, then you're in the right place. Today, I'm going to talk about living in Montana and things that they don't tell you, and maybe things that you should keep in mind before you move to Montana. And we get calls, texts, and emails from people just like you trying to escape the hustle and bustle of the city. I mean, I don't blame you. I did the exact same thing. I left Washington, D.C. to get a slower pace of life in Montana. But I learned the hard way on a few things, and I want to share those with you today. People do want to get away, but they don't realize what Montana, and not necessarily Missoula, but definitely the suburbs, there's just a few things that I didn't really think of until I experienced them myself. I know there are a bunch of TV shows that portray Montana as just like a lawless state that's absolutely gorgeous, which that part is true, but it's not all sunshines and rainbows over here in Montana. Now, you hear about it all the time. People are moving to Montana because they do want a slower pace of life, but they are keeping their jobs that they had from previous states. So we do tend to see quite a few remote workers. Internet is unstable and unreliable, and the bandwidth may be in and out. So you'll have to plan around that. So it's not uncommon for you to lose out on cell service. Now, you'll go in and out, but God forbid you're in a car accident, who are you gonna call? There's no one. You'll have to get to walking, because especially in Ravalli County, you won't encounter the houses so close together. It might be miles on miles on miles until you get to the next house. Or it might be at least a 20 or 30-minute drive until you can get to a gas station or a grocery store. So while off-grid living does look cool, or being away and tucked in the mountains into a cozy little cabin, while that's all great for TV shows, if you want to just go to the store and pick something up for dinner real quick, it's just not going to happen. It's far away. And if you get into the winter time where it's icy and snowy, you're not going to want to leave the house, nor is it safe for you to leave the house. Or what if you're snowed in? Because not all the roads are county maintained, which means not all the roads, especially the dirt roads, they're not always cleared in time for you to get to where you need to go in a timely manner. So you might have to stay home, and you'll need to plan accordingly. And you'll need to have enough food to support you and your family if you're not able to get off of your property. So just like little things to keep in mind. So be careful what you wish for, because rural living is not for the weak. You need to be resourceful and plan ahead. Not only keeping your house prepared for situations like I just mentioned with being snowed in, but keeping your car prepared with extra jackets and blankets and the car things to jump your car. Clearly, I don't know anything about a car, but I have it in my trunk, the little thingies to jump your car, or an extra flashlight, or the little things to keep your hands warm, or chains for your car. Like, be prepared for all sorts of situations. Now, another thing to keep in mind is you'll need to have an extra budget for winter here in Montana. It is not for the weak. I'm not talking about Missoula. So this is like outside of Missoula, like the rural area where the houses aren't close together and people have space, people have acreage, right? So sometimes you'll need to drive up the dirt road to get to somebody's house or to your house or whatever it may be. You will need the right vehicle. You'll absolutely need a four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, whatever you want to call it. So you'll need to have the proper tires. So you'll need some spring and summer tires, but then you'll also need some winter tires that are studded or have chains. You want to be prepared with the right car. Now, I got off on a whole tangent about this in this video right here, driving in Missoula. While it absolutely applies to being in Missoula, I'm mostly referring to the outside area, the rural area. Your car needs to be prepared for the winter. And not only your car, but you need to be prepared to drive in some pretty tough situations. Like, what are you gonna do if you're sliding off the road? What are you going to do if your car gets in a ditch? You're walking. You need to be resourceful. You need to think about these situations so that if they happen, you know what to do. Now let's get into animals. I'm not talking about the pretty little goats and the chickens and the beautiful bald eagles that we get. Yes, those are really nice to look at, and so many people have farms, right? That's all fine and dandy. I'm talking about little dogs, Chihuahuas and Yorkies and little teeny weeny dogs. They get snatched up by birds because birds think they're prey, you know? So you want to be mindful of what you leave outside, because coyotes, or coyotes as they call them here, they will come and get your food. Bears are real. Spottings of bears happen all the time. Maybe not in Missoula, but as soon as you hit Lolo, Florence, Hamilton, absolutely bears are spotted quite a few times a week. So you want to be prepared and not leave your food, trash bags outside. Put your chickens, if you have chickens, put them in their coop at night because they're going to get eaten. Small story, I was buying my eggs from this gentleman that had a farm, and he has 30 plus chickens. And I told him, hey, I'm going to pick up 3 dozen eggs on Friday. Is that okay with you? And he said, yep, no problem. Stop on by, I'll sell you some eggs. Okay, great. So he sends me a text on Thursday and tells me that a coyote came onto his property. Well, he thinks it was a coyote or maybe a fox or a raccoon or something. And pretty much there was like a massacre of chickens. And so he was not able to sell me eggs anymore because I think they only left about 1 or 2 chickens. And he was really upset. So it does happen. All right, now unlike what people think or what people see in the movies, Montana has laws. We have quite a few laws, so I don't even know where that came from. But just keep in mind, when it comes to like housing, there are HOAs, there are covenants, there are rules. Now you may like that you can do whatever you want with your property, and you can paint your door pink or change your oil in your driveway or park your car sideways, and that's all fine and dandy if you have the acreage, if you have the space. But keep in mind, your neighbors can do what they want to. They can have a complete junkyard right next to you. And yes, that will decrease your property value. So if there aren't HOAs, that's your negative. But if there are HOAs and covenants, it's to maintain that property value. Now, I don't want to make it seem like there are absolutely no subdivisions outside of Missoula, because there definitely are. And they're just like every other subdivision that you've ever known. There are rules, all the houses look the same, they're all cookie cutter, but people like that. That is available if you want it, but also know that rural living, and if you want acreage, if you want 5 acres, 10 acres, 50 acres. It is available to you. You just need to be prepared and think about these things before you buy that property. And make sure to call me because I can walk you through the whole thing. Now, another thing to keep in mind when you move to Montana is you need to be careful whose property you walk onto or whose property you drive onto. So let's say that your neighbor has 50 acres. You can't just drive onto his property, because just keep in mind, Montana has the highest percentage of gun ownership in the entire United States. The highest. So if you walk or drive onto somebody's property, don't be surprised if you are welcomed with a shotgun in your face, okay? And it's not just in the movies, like it actually happens, okay? So just keep that in mind. Now, another thing that you want to consider, because properties are so big, especially outside of Missoula, when you get into like the 3 acres to, let's just go with 50 acres, for example, there are easements, because it is very expensive to build a road or a driveway to this person's house and that person's house, and they each have their own individual entrances. So to minimize that, there's one driveway or one entrance, and then it kind of branches off into each person's home or each person's property. And if you think you're going to buy the property at the end of the road and tell all of those other people that you share the road with, like, you can't use that road because it's mine now, it doesn't work like that. Yeah, you're gonna have to share that road because that easement, they have rights to that road. And plus they were there first, right? But that's not any legal term, but that's what I'm referring to. Okay, I could go on and on and on for days about how to be prepared in the wintertime for Montana. So let's go back to that real quick. So obviously Montana has lots of mountains, right? Now let's go back to an example of Ravalli County, where you'll probably need to drive up a dirt road up a mountain if you want to go visit your friends or some family members, or buy a house yourself on the beautiful mountaintop, because that way you get the best views, right? Well, when you're driving up roads like that, where you're driving literally up a mountainside, keep in mind that there are no guardrails as you're driving up a 1-car lane up a windy, slippery road in the winter. There's nothing there to protect you. So if, God forbid, you start slipping, if you don't have the right car because you didn't take my advice, where are you going? You're going down the cliff. That actually happened to one of our neighbors. Unfortunately, he was driving too fast on the dirt road, going up the mountainside, and his car slipped and he fell down, pretty far down. Now, moving to rural Montana, you are giving up conveniences. Now, let's say that you don't want to cook dinner tonight. You can't just run and grab some fast food, because there are no fast food places. The nearest fast food place is 20 or 30 minutes away. By the time you get in the car, you drive, you get there, you wait for your food, you drive back. 1, it's cold. 2, you probably just should have made some ramen. So you're giving up those conveniences that you'll have in a major city, or like even just in Missoula, you won't have that problem. But if you're in the suburbs, you're definitely gonna have some of those issues. All right, and the biggest thing that I wanna cover today is that while people from Montana, the locals from Montana, are super nice people overall, the pace of life is much slower than in a big city. Locals do get upset when transplants come. So people from out of state come and try to change Montana. The locals love Montana because it is the way it is, and they don't want to change it. They don't want to change it politically, is a huge aspect of it. So we do get quite a few people from out of state. Then they start to vote the same way that they did in that particular state. And that's why Montana locals get upset. And that's why they're not welcoming. And that's why they'll talk negatively and say, oh, you should just go back to where you came from. The locals of Montana want to keep Montana the way it is because that's what they love so much about it. They want to preserve the way that it is. So if you fit into the Montana lifestyle, come on, we would love to have you. And if I were to share any advice to people relocating to Montana, is don't push where you came from. Now, we all have unique experiences. We all came from somewhere, whether it's Montana or a different state or a different country for that matter. We're all different, and that's all wonderful. But don't push where you came from onto the locals. They don't like that. They love Montana and they want to keep it that way. And they want you moving to Montana to embrace the lifestyle, to love the lifestyle, to love the area as much as they do, because we all want to take care of it and preserve all the wonders and the beauties of Montana. Okay? So don't push it. All right, that is all I have for you today. So if you want to move out of the big city and move to rural Montana, not necessarily talking about Missoula in this video like I usually do. I'm talking about the suburbs, north and in the south, all around Missoula. That's what I'm referring to in today's video. And if there's anything that I missed, please comment down below. I would love to know, is there anything else people that are relocating to Montana, what is it that they must know? Locals, help me out here. Because I know, yeah, I'm right there with you. I moved from a big city, Washington, D.C. Now, while I love D.C., I don't wear that on my forehead, you know? I'm wearing my Grizz t-shirt. Clearly, I love the Montana lifestyle. We do fit in perfectly. You should see my husband. People don't even know he's from a big city. We fit into the lifestyle. We love the lifestyle. And we are here to preserve Montana and all of its beauty. And we want to help you make that smooth move as well. So if you're finding value in this video, then go ahead and give that like button a click. And if you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button. That way I can bring more of Missoula and the surrounding areas, all the wonderful and beautiful charm that it has to bring.